Hello and welcome back to the Enough Mom podcast. I'm Jen Bryant. I'll be your host today, and we are on 111. This episode is called Stop Managing, Start Leading, and I'll tell you what the difference between managing and leading is in just a second. The purpose of today's episode is to introduce you to my family check-in method, and it came from many years of just managing kids' schedules, needing to know where husband is going to be and where kids are going to be, and now that my kids are older teenagers where they have their own work schedule, they work for our family business. We own a restaurant in town. The husband is there often, and their schedules are never the same every week. So it's imperative for me to do regular check-ins weekly, but what I want to suggest to you today, as we are at the end of this current year, this is an important time to do family check-ins to see where everyone is, what is working, what is not working. And I'll go into detail about explaining that to you and then offer you something special that I've created that will hopefully make your family planning easier. So the purpose in introducing strategic conversations in these family check-ins is to help you from becoming overwhelmed and allowing life to happen to you. As the kids get older, there are many things that we could do, that we could be involved in. Not everything is going to last forever. Some things are just a tryout period. Some things are seasons where we're involved in things and then we don't need to be anymore, either because it ends or because the kids grow out of it or their interests go in different directions. I remember when my kids were little, I attempted to put them in a lot of little sports activities. The I-9 program has worked really well for us for, soccer and t-ball. And eventually they did softball. And my son tried swimming, and then they did martial arts, depending on the commitment level. Come back and check in with your family. And what I mean by check-in is attempt to initiate actual conversations. I think one of the best times to do this is around the dinner table or maybe after dinner, but either way you have to say, hey, we are going to sit down tonight and discuss this. I'm going to try to keep it to, 30 minutes. I think my discussion went about an hour because we have so many things to talk about and input coming from, every which way. So make sure that you have something to write with, or maybe you're taking notes on your phone or something or on a laptop, but try to capture these conversations at regular intervals. Remember that most chaos is not caused by bad planning or difficult children. I mean, you may have trouble trying to get a child to talk to you about what they want or what they need, and then you could have another child who just won't stop talking about all their ideas and everything. But it's important that you see this as a mother who's coming into this knowing, first of all, that all of your children are probably going to be slightly different in their temperaments, in their needs, in their developmental stage. And so considering what they're able to do or handle or communicate to you about, you need to be able to take this in. And the best way I have found is not to just let things sit in your head. If you pride yourself on being able to remember a lot of things, great, but our brains cannot possibly hold every single thing all the time. So I highly suggest that you have a place where you can write down what the needs of your kids are. I have notes, the notes app on my phone I use often to capture the things I need to remember and refer back to. So always have a place where you can go to do that. Number 2, it's not caused by everyone operating with different information. So the chaos that can come up around our family schedules is most often, communication misses, right? So we need to make sure that we're communicating often, and you get to be the reminder. You get to remind your family of what's important. Someone has to keep track of your family's values, what you've committed to, your calendar, however you keep a calendar. I've kept a digital calendar through my Google Calendar for years, and it has been the number one thing that's worked for me because it color codes everything. But if you are more comfortable with a paper calendar that you carry around with you, or maybe it's on your wall, then great. Just use one system consistently. Number 3, when we feel constantly one step behind, we're probably more often reacting than leading our family schedule. we don't want to be reactive. We want to be able to look at something and go, okay, what was our family value around this? And how can I reiterate this? And how can I keep people on track? And the last thing that comes up is the exhaustion of being the family manager who's always surprised by new things. So often we need to decide the things that we commit our family to or that we commit ourselves to. We have to have a way not to only to keep track of that, but to keep track of the energy and time that it's taking for our family to be involved in this thing. If we keep going forward without having a time to regularly check in with ourselves or check in with our people about how it's going, do we want to make changes? Do we want to move into another level of this? Then it has to be done by somebody. So if you're going to be that person, just make sure that you are being intentional about that. What if I told you that 3 conversations per year could change the amount of chaos that you have around scheduling? Now, this end of the year time, the end of the calendar year, and you may be listening to this later and it's the end of spring or the end of summer. Those are the other 2 periods in time where it's the most natural to talk about new family commitments and schedules. The goal is to go from a mom manager to a mom leader. And I'll tell you the difference. A mom manager makes all the decisions about scheduling usually by herself. A mom manager controls the schedule. Okay, so far these 2 things are me. A mom manager tells everyone what to do. A mom manager fixes problems when they arise. And a mom manager creates passive children who wait to be told what to do rather than taking initiative themselves. Okay, for years, I have functioned as a mom manager, and you may be in mom manager mode, especially when your kids are little. They do need to be told what to do, okay? So I'm not saying that managing is a bad thing. I'm saying that as you get into more healthy rhythms, to move from only managing into more of a leadership position or a co-leadership position with your spouse, it requires clear communication. All right. So this is the difference. A leader mom will still be maybe managing that most of that schedule on her own, but she invites input and facilitates decisions. The purpose in inviting your family in to these times is to hear from them. If you are the one who's always making choices and always telling people what to do, where to go, without asking them how they're doing, maybe around the piano lessons, around softball practice, around anything that they've attempted to do, then your people are going to soon feel like they don't have a voice into where their life is going. I remember for years I was involved in softball. I was good at softball. I started when I was about 7. And it wasn't until high school that I realized that I can decide to not do this anymore if I don't want to, really? And I doubted myself because no one had ever brought up the idea of quitting. I mean, I always thought about it as I don't want to be a quitter, but also no one's ever asked me what I think about it. They just wanted me to keep going because success builds success builds success, right? But in the middle of all this, you guys, all I really wanted to do was hang out with the drama kids. I wanted to be involved in plays and things like that. But because I had played softball for so long, I didn't realize that I could say no to it. And I finally did say no as a junior in high school, which is usually when kids get a little more bold and start to use their nose a lot more in high school. And I wondered, wow, I spent a lot of time not believing that I had a choice in this. And I don't think it was a very conscious decision on my parents' part. My parents just, wanted us to do well in things and saw that we were relatively happy playing these sports. And they were just doing their thing, right? They had 4 kids in 4 different sports probably at that time. But it's important that if you can make space with your family in conversation to ask them how they're doing, because sometimes the extra quiet kids won't stand up and speak up and say, I'd rather do something else, or can I try this or that? Kids really don't know unless you put it in front of them. But we'll do another episode on, what it's like to get your kids involved in activities and how to navigate those those names and those conversations through specific activities. But here we're talking about planning and how to lead your children through these conversations that can get emotional, that can bring up a lot of feelings. But you don't need to be afraid of those feelings, right? Because you're a leader and you know that managing yourself first helps you to manage where your children are and whatever they're feeling around whatever they're doing in life. So a leader mom invites and facilitates decisions. A leader mom also guides the family in creating schedules together. I ask my kids, now that they're in high school, what kinds of classes they want to take, especially when it comes to electives, as we homeschool. I show them the schedule that I've already created for them for their path to graduate high school. So I said, look, you need these, but this is where you have options. You know, you need an elective that looks a little bit more like this, but you have to take these core classes: math, science, English, history, all the core related classes. But they do get a choice over here. And depending on how they're feeling about their life, what they're pointed toward in terms of a possible career, my kids don't necessarily know what they want to do when they're an adult, and that's okay. We're letting that be okay. All right. But if your child is pointed toward a particular direction that they really want to go for, they really want to do engineering, they want to be a doctor, something that requires a degree, then you get to help to point them toward that. But having the discussion with them helps them to connect their own ownership over their life instead of just being told what to do. The next thing a leader mom does is that she asks questions that help kids think for themselves. Help your kids to critically think through something instead of having definitive language and saying, you're doing this because this is the right way to do it and this is the only path. And, open it and see what they think about what they know. Ask them if they have any thoughts around it. And what you're doing and you're not doing it because you don't know. You're doing it to help them to trust themselves more and to validate the thoughts that they have around things. This is how you're building their emotional intelligence, is when you invite them into conversations about how they spend their time with their life. You're inviting them to think critically about their own choices. And it's a very cool relationship to have with your kids. What you're also doing as a leader mom is that you're preventing problems through planning. If you don't plan for something, then it's going to catch up with you later. And you may be sitting here thinking, gosh, Jen, I'm so not a good planner. I'm so not good at thinking far ahead into the future. I wonder if you may have not had the chance to think about your own life in that way. But if you slow down and allow yourself to look at where you are now and where you want to go, even as an adult mama, you get to still develop those skills. You don't have to be the super duper Martha Stewart organized person in order to be a good leader for planning. You get to learn this with your children. You get to do this together as a family, as a team, instead of feeling like the whole entire thing is on you. And maybe this is your chance to ask yourself, wow, do I say yes to too many things? Is that why I feel overloaded in my schedule right now? What can I say no to? Why do I feel bad about saying no to such and such a thing? There could be things happening inside of you, mama, around this idea of planning and seeing yourself as a leader and as a planner, because it should not be a heavy burden. It should be something that we come into, that we get to figure out together. So if you're putting too much of an expectation of yourself around this idea, let's just take a beat. Take a breath. Take a breath. And tell yourself why you're doing this. I want to lead my children well. So I am going to learn different elements of how to plan well for our lives. And you can do it, mama. You can do it. A leader mama develops capable children who take ownership over their own lives. The more opportunity you take to gently walk your kids through plans for their future, and when I say their future, I could only be talking about the next couple weeks or the next couple months, right? Their future selves, doing things now that help your future self is so important for your own life, for your own planning and scheduling, and for your children's lives. But you can do it. Even if you're not sure where to start, this is where I'm coming in and giving you an idea of where to start. So remember, your role is not to have all of the answers. It's just to ask the right questions. After you ask the right questions, then you lean in and really listen to the responses. Remember, you're not looking for perfection. You're practicing leading children, leading capable humans who can lead their own lives well. So here are the 3 times of year that you can do strategic check-ins with your family. Number 1, end of summer. So this could be early August or late August. It could actually even be late July, because nowadays school schedules are having kids start school in August, right? So if your school year starts in August, then start in late July or maybe even mid-July if you can. The purpose of this is to set up for fall and winter success, right? So for kids in school, you're going to want to look at their class schedule. If you homeschool, you're looking at curriculum. And to be honest, many of us moms are looking at curriculum for the next year way back at the beginning of summer. So if that's what you do, then wonderful. But if you try to wait till July to set up their school schedule, just make sure that you're looking at each individual child's needs, where they are, what works for you. We'll do more episodes on homeschooling. Don't worry, because this comes up a lot. So you're setting them up for fall and winter success. You're looking at school schedules, activities, holiday plans, back to school needs. So I always try to ask my kids, do you need any new supplies for school? Aside from curriculum, because you may be buying science kit sets and things like that. Asking them if they need any new clothes, look at how their clothes are fitting them, have them bring anything to you that doesn't fit anymore, and figuring out, if we're going to donate or pass on to a different child. You're asking them if they want to try anything new, if they want to look at a new activity. Maybe it is related to school, or maybe it's just extracurricular. Have them look at August, September, October, November, December. So you have the beginning of the school year, and then usually there's a fall break in there somewhere, so you can talk about possible plans for traveling or what they really want to do on fall break. You can start thinking ahead about what that could look like. And remember, Mama, try not to worry about, I don't like to think that far ahead. I don't like to make decisions that far ahead. Well, why? Ask yourself why. Why not? Why not look past the next few months? It does not mean that you have to make concrete decisions right there and then. It does not mean that you have to know all the details of what's happening in a few months. What I do at the beginning of a school year is I ask the kids, hey, so how do you feel about Halloween this year? Do you want to dress up? My son wanted to save for a really expensive costume. He wanted to show up as this video game character, so he had to put money away to be ready for Halloween. And that had to start back in August, right? Or even sooner than that. So depending on what your kids want to do for that time, just let them start to think about it and remind your kids, look, this does not mean you have to have all the answers right now either. I'm just asking. I'm just getting a feel. I'm taking the temperature on what you might want to do then. This is also a good time to consider with your spouse or with your whole family, around the money. Are we going to travel for the holidays? Are we going to family's home, or are we having family come here? What can we start thinking about now in case it becomes a question of where we put our finances now? Or are we saving up for a trip? So all those things are good to ask. Why does this matter? Because it prevents September surprises and it clears the expectations. It provides your family a clear set of expectations. So the check-in number 2, this could be this time of year, which is the end of December. The week after Christmas is when I love to do planning for the next year. The purpose is to reflect, reset, and plan for the upcoming new year. And tell them, look, I'm here for you. This is not the time to come down on your kids or shame them for being behind in school. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Make the check-in time positive and keep it an opportunity to have dialogue, to have conversation about, well, okay, why do you think you're behind in science? Or what happened, son? Were the activities you were doing too much for you? Do you need more of my help in that? And doing a check-in mid-year like this can be so healing. Just remember, do not shame your kids about school. Be there as a solid rock and support for them. Relate with them and say, honey, I know it's hard to keep up with some subjects, and maybe this isn't a class that you love very much, so let's figure out how to get you caught up with that. Because it gives them the hope to know that they're not failing you, that they're not going to be met with disappointment, that there is a chance to catch up, because they are going to expect you to check in with them often. And if you can make this a regular process, it should have the effect of lowering stress levels instead of heightening them. Stress levels only get heightened when we come in angry and disappointed because our expectations are already high. Parents, please remember your children are human, and remember that whatever is triggering you, you have to manage first within yourself before you come to your children. So make the check-in process a positive experience and an opportunity for them to communicate with you about what they need. So you're going to talk about how school is actually going, your New Year goals, your spring plans, and maybe some financial adjustments. Depending on how finances went for Christmas, you get to be clear with your kids and with your family about what you need to do as a family now that the new year has come. Okay, we just had Christmas, and depending on when birthdays are in the middle of the year, this is also a good time to decide, okay, we're only going to be doing this much for birthdays because of Christmas or because we're saving for a trip. And you get to be very, very clear about that without the guilt. Okay, keep guilt and shame out of this scenario. You're just communicating the facts. This matters because you get to course correct before things fall off track. And if you're in a school situation in regular school or homeschool where you have regular breaks that are built in, like fall and spring break, use those times as markers to do mini check-ins and just to see where your kids are and if you need to follow the same plan or if you need to make some adjustments. But always do it with grace and with love, if at all possible. Your last check-in can be the end of the school year. This could be around May or June, whenever your school year ends. And the purpose is to celebrate the end of the school year. Make celebration time a priority, okay? Because it gives you all something to look forward to. They don't have to be fully graduating from high school yet in order to celebrate the end of every school year. So maybe try to plan a special time. You can go out to eat, you can do park time, but just play. Try to play as a family and remind your kids that you're proud of the effort that they've put in this year. So make this time a celebratory time, a time for learning about where we've been and where we want to go, and then to prepare for summertime. Prepare for that downtime, the relax time, the expectations around summer. Talk about what worked this past school year. Talk about what was challenging. Adjust any summer plans or work schedules around summer plans so that you can come together in a meaningful way before you start another school year with them. This matters because you're capturing the lessons learned and you're setting everyone up for summer success. Now, this coming summer, I have one child graduating high school. So I know that this spring is going to be packed full of, end of the year things, getting my student through the end of her high school time. So I'm double checking on classes that she needs to take in order to graduate from our homeschool situation. But it's also a lot of talks around how to launch well into this new season of young adulthood for her. I'm sure we will do an episode later on young adults, and we're going to bring on moms who have raised young adults or who are in the middle of that currently, because this is a whole new season of parenting. Whole new season of motherhood to help to prepare your kids for the next stage. But I can tell you that every time that I have sat with my teenagers, whether they wanted to hear it from me or not. I needed to be as clear as I could with them about what we expect of them, because the confusion comes when you don't talk about expectations and when you don't give them clear ideas for what they can do and then ask them for their input about what they think that means. It could be a work schedule situation, it could be curfew, it could be how they're going to save money toward different things, or whether or not you as a parent are going to spend money on that, or whether you expect them to find ways to make money. Maybe it's introducing your teens to job opportunities. And so you've got a lot of cool things that you can guide teenagers through, especially as they're coming to the end of this line of school. But I can tell you that the more that you communicate, the better. And then listening to your teens more than you're talking or sharing suggestions is usually better. My daughter told me this morning that while she, appreciated the check-ins and everything, she goes, all I want to do, Mom, is get my school done and to be left alone. And, she's a very lone wolf in that respect. She can do a lot of things herself. Whereas my son really appreciates the check-ins because he needs clarity. He doesn't like to be caught off guard or to have this expectation looming over him that he wasn't ready for. So your children will need you to communicate differently for different reasons. These are the 5 essential questions to ask at every check-in. Number 1, what's working well right now? Start positive to create safety for them. Number 2, what feels overwhelming or what feels like is too much? This gives them permission to be honest with you. And please, please keep your ears open for this. Number 3, what do you wish was different? Open that door to possible change. Number 4, what do you need from me to feel supported? Clarify your role in their life. My role in my teen's life has changed. It's gone from more direct telling them what I expect them to do to what do you think you should do? What do you think as a strong, capable, growing person? Give me ideas because I want to hear from you. And number 5, what are you most excited about? End with that hope and anticipation for the future. Our life experiences should be so much more than right or wrong, just making the right decision or the wrong decision. Am I going down the right path or the wrong path? We need to get away from very black and white thinking around what we should do or what we should experiment with our schedules. And communicating this to our kids is so important because they need to have room to try things and not like it. They need to try things and discover, oh, wow, that is my thing. Okay. Even when your small children are trying new things, asking them what they feel about it, asking them how they're interacting with their other teammates or classmates, or what their feeling may be about stage anxiety if they're playing a musical instrument or expected to perform in a certain way. Get their feedback. Allow them to see that you really care about their experience and not just how they're performing. One of the most important questions we can ask our kids around their life and their schedule is, how involved do you need me to be right now? Sometimes we think we're parenting well when we're asking all the questions and there for their every need, but that's not what every kid needs. Some kids need that more than others. But if we're just getting more and more anxious about being there for them and not allowing them to experience certain things without us, then we could just be hovering unnecessarily. We don't want to be helicoptery like that. We want to give them space to experience their own things and to make their own choices around how they are experiencing those things. And what you're also realizing, Mama, I hope, is how you can best support their growth and independence. See, you want your kids to think for themselves. You want them to take ownership over their own lives. You want them to feel heard. So are you doing things to help them facilitate becoming that type of person now? So as you're heading into this new year, I know you want things to be different. I know you're tired of being overwhelmed. So I created a special workbook for you. It's called The Confident Mom's Guide to Family Leadership Through Strategic check-ins. Everything that I explained to you on the podcast today is there in this simple little digital workbook that you can download from my site. It gives you the exact framework for all 3 check-ins, word-for-word questions to ask, planning worksheets for each child if they want to use them, real examples from my own family, and mindset shifts that you need to move from just managing to stronger leadership. Head to the show notes to grab your copy wherever you're watching. If you're watching on YouTube, the show notes are right below. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, the show notes are right below this episode as well. Now, how does this relate to our framework at Enough Mom? Courage, confidence, and calling. We are here to help you have the courage to be confident in your calling as a mother. So first, you need the courage to ask questions instead of assuming that you have to have all the answers. Ask intentional questions. Get to know what your family needs through conversation. And then we need the confidence to lead our family well without controlling them. We don't need to control every aspect of their life, but we get to invite them into the process. And that's what makes us good leaders, is knowing that we want to see other people be successful, that it's not just about us and how well we plan or how well we keep a calendar. The calendar is a tool to service the well-being of our family. And we get to confidently lean on those tools, but really on our own better judgments because we know our family best. And your calling is to raise capable humans who can lead their own lives well. So when you can model this type of leadership, you get to instill in your kids a confidence that they can lead their own lives well. And that they don't need to have all the answers, but they get to take very real steps to plan and take initiative in their own lives. Mama, you can do this. You can do this. If you were here with me, I'd give you a big, tight hug and tell you it's going to be okay. You can make it through whatever this year brings you. And remember, you can only do what you can do. All the other things that are outside of your control, we can't spend time worrying about them. We can only do what we're able to do. And if you're able to look at your calendar, look at your life, and say, I want to live a life on purpose, a life that lines up with our family's values, and a life that I can be proud of. Take that one confident step at a time into the new year. And I'll be back with you here next time on the Enough Mom podcast. Thanks for listening, and make sure to like and subscribe wherever we are on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And leave a review. If you've gotten anything from what I've shared with you today or in other episodes, make sure to leave a review so other mamas know where to find us. Take care.